Hello everyone, this was the Algebra I Regents that was given in August 2022, and we are going to go through every single question, how to use your calculator to answer these questions and to do your very best and pass this exam. So let's get right to it, and we have part 1, the first question, nice and easy. We have f of x is 3x, and it is plus 4. I don't know why that didn't come out, but that's a plus 4 over 2. Then f of 8, and this right here inside the parentheses is your x. So you could do this one or two ways. You can actually just go ahead and substitute the 8 in. You get 3 times 8 plus 4 over 2. You can put this directly into your calculator, and this would be 28 over 2, and f8 equals 14. That's one way. You could also just put the whole entire thing into your calculator and into your y1, and then just look for an x of 8. You will get 14. And that is it. If f of x does not equal 0, the common ratio of the sequence, they're asking for the common ratio. So the common ratio is what's being multiplied to get to the next term. So what times x will equal 2x squared? Well, you can actually just go ahead and figure out what that multiplier is by dividing the second and the first term. So you have 2 divided by, and this is a 1 there, so this is 2. And x squared divided by x is x. So that's basically it. And just remember, if you multiply x times 2x, that equals 2x squared. You see how it gets to the next term? And then if you take 2x squared and you continue with the common ratio of 2x, that's 2 times 2, which is 4, and then x squared times x is x to the third. So you just basically could see that the common ratio is 2x, and that's what you're multiplying. All right, so for these type of questions, if it ever asks you which expression is equivalent to another expression, you could just put this directly into the calculator, or you could do this by hand. So right now I'm going to do this by hand, and I am going to factor. So I have 36x squared minus 9. Both of these numbers are perfect squares, right? And this is actually the difference of squares. So we're going to have here is 6x times 6x, because 6 times 6 equals 36. So 6x times 6x equals 36x squared. And then what times what equals negative 9? Well, a negative 3 and a positive 3. If you go ahead and you take a look at this and you do 6x times 6x, that is 36x squared. 6x times positive 3, that is 18x. Negative 3 times 6x is negative 18x. So those middle terms, they cancel out. Negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9. This is your answer, and that is it. Just remember also, if you have a negative 9, it can't be this one, because this is 6x minus 3 times 6x minus 3. A negative 3 times a negative 3 is a positive. You have a negative 9. So this is the difference of squares. And that's about it for that one. I just wanted to show you how you would use your calculator for this. If you don't know how to factor, or if you don't know that it's the difference of squares, just put it directly into the calculator as y1 and y2, and then you could press enter. And once you press enter, well, not enter, but graph, once you do that, you can tell right now that the graphs are not the same. So if the graphs are not the same, that means that's not the answer. So if you go back to y equals, and you clear out the second one, because the first one is in, that's the one they give you, then put the 6x plus 3, close the parentheses, and then put 6x minus 3, you will notice that you get the same graph. So that's the first graph, that's the second graph, and you could check it by doing second function table. Second function table would be the same exact numbers throughout. That means that's the answer. So that's an easy way and a trick that you could use the calculator. You don't have to do anything by hand for number 3. So for number 4, and he put down some notes, function is every x must have its own y. And what that means is that an x can't have two different y's attached to it. So we're talking about inputs and outputs. So x is an input, y is an output. So an input can't have two different outputs. So simply, I'm going to go and look to see if the x repeats at all here. And this right here is the x that they're talking about. Which value of x would make this relation a function? So you can't pick another, the same x that the other terms have. So if you put a -4 in here for this x, it would mean that this -4 goes to 2 and this -4 would go to 8. That is not a function. -1 in, then the -1 would go to 8 here, and then -1 goes to 4 already. That's not a function. 3 would go to 6, and then this 3 would go to 8. That's not a function. If you put a 0 in here, 0, that would make it a function because every x has its own y. And then that is how you do that problem. Also, you could put these on a graph if you really wanted to and do the vertical line test. That's a longer way of doing it. But again, you see that the vertical line test has to go through just once. When you draw that vertical line, if it goes through twice, it's not a function. If it goes through once, it is a function. All right, so if the point k -5 lies on the line whose equation is 3x plus y equals 7, then the value of k is, and just really simply, you have to solve for y. So I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite 3x plus y equals 7. You minus 3x on both sides. And they gave you a nice easy one because this cancels and then it's y equals. And I always put the x first with the coefficient because that's y equals mx plus b. That's the equation that you want. Now you could either put this into the calculator, and that's really what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to go ahead and substitute. So my y, I'm going to do this by hand first, and then I'll show you exactly what's going on with the calculator. So instead of the y is -5. They're giving it to you. So you put the y in, and then you solve for x. That's it. So you subtract 7 on both sides. You get -12 equals -3x. You divide by -3. Divide by -3. This cancels. And then x equals 4. And that's it. So I promised you that I would show the calculator. So again, you have to solve for y. Can't put the other one in that it's not solved for y. Put the equation in that's not solved for y into this calculator. So it's negative 3x plus 7. So then you could just go to the table and you press second function table and you look for a y that's negative 5. Here's the negative 5 right there. Here's the y that is negative 5. And the x that's attached to it is 4. And that's how I got my answer. So you really don't have to do anything as far as the substitution goes, but you do have to solve for y because, again, you have to have y equals mx plus b. You have to have that in that format. All right, this is, again, another one that is, for some reason, the plus sign is not there. So I'm going to put it. So you have to do distributive property. And like, again, you do 1/3 times 6 into your calculator, and that's 2x squared. Because x times, I'm sorry, 2x to the third, because x times x is x to the third. And then you do 1/3 times negative 3. So this is 2x to the third. Just put some the pluses and minuses that were not there, and then you see I have 2x to the third. Just doing that first one, I would see that 1 and 2 are out, and then 3 is my answer. Just doing the second one, it's 1/3 x times negative 3x. And you can do that in your calculator, and you see that you have x squared. It's not 3. So that's out. So 3 is your answer. Or you could put these into your calculator and just match the graphs. All right, so that's very important. Just match the graphs. And that is that. All right, the graphs below represent 4 polynomial functions. Which of these functions has a root of functions has zeros of 2 and negative 3. So the zeros is the x-intercept. That's what you're looking for. All right, so this one right here has a 3. This one right here is negative 2. This is out. This one right here is negative 3. This one right here is 2. That's good, because that's what they want. Let me just look at these right here. I could see that this is 2, and this is 3. That's wrong. And this is negative 2, and this is negative 3. That's out. So 3 is your answer for that one, and that is it. So looking for the constant term of the polynomial. The constant is the number before the variable, all right? And it's the largest variable. So right here, you don't even have to really do anything. The constant term, I'm sorry, that is the coefficient. So the constant term is the one without the variable, which is 6, and that's it. You don't have to write this in standard form, but if you did, it would be 3 squared plus 4d, not necessary though, plus 6. And then that is the constant term. All right. Emily was given $600 for her high school graduation. It's pretty good, Emily. So I'm going to highlight that. She invested in the account that earns 2.4% interest per year. She does not make any deposit withdrawals. What is going to be in the account after 4 years? So these questions are very, they're very easy because you could cancel out 2 immediately. When you're looking at it earns an interest of 2.4%, it's 1 plus. It's not 1 minus. All right, so 1 plus, you're looking for something that has 1 plus the rate. And then this is the time, right, for the exponent. So this is a growth. And when you're talking about a growth, you're not talking about 1 minus. So I'm going to cancel out this and this. So it's either 1 plus 0.24 or it's 1 plus 0.024. So remember, you have to take the percent and move it to a decimal. So it's 1, 2. And we're going to put 0.024. So this would be 1 plus 0.024. And that would be over here. Remember, the 600 would be in the front. This is your answer. Right? For this one, they only moved it over once, and that is not how you change a percent to a decimal. So 3 would be your answer for that one. So here's a little bit of statistics. Different ways to represent data are shown below. Which data has a median of 2? Okay, I put all of those dots back. For some reason, it wasn't showing up, but here we go. I'm going to say this is a dot plot. This is a box and whisker plot. And here we go with the histogram. So if we have, we're looking for a median of 2. I know that this right here, this is the median. This is the Q2. So that's the median. So I know that 2 is definitely an answer. So that means 3 is out and 2 is out. So it could be it could be 1 and it could be 4. All right. So honestly, I'm just going to go and check. Since 1 is a part of both of these, I am not even going to do 1 because this will have a median of 2. But the way I would do this, and the reason why I'm saying is because it's part of both answers. So you have to see if 2 is a part of both, 3 is a part of both answers. So I'm just going to do this right here. And you see how 0 has a frequency of 1? So I'm going to put this down as 0. And then 1 has a frequency of 3. So there's 3 1s. Then 2 has a frequency of 5. So there's 5 2s. And then there's 3 3s. And then there's 4 4s. And there are 3 5s. And there are 2 6s. And I listed them all out just to be safe. Now you could do median remember, it's the middle number. Or you could put this directly into your calculator. All right. But I mean, I'd like to do this by hand right now. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm going to do 1 on this side, 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 1 on this side. 3 is your median. So that means that 1 is my answer because 1 and 2 definitely have a median of 2. So again, like I said, if you want to do 1, but you know 1 is a part of both of them that are there, work harder. Don't work hard. You know, work smarter. So that's it. That's all you have to do for that one. You can put this into the calculator. The calculator can give you the median, and that would be, you know, a little bit of a direct way, but you have to input that whole list in. I don't want to do that. I rather just, you know, go back and forth and cancel out. and then get to that middle number that way. All right, simple here is, the simple thing here is that it's asking which quadratic functions, and they'll be U-shapes, are when they're arranged from narrowest to widest would be the narrowest to the widest. Which one is the narrowest? That goes first. The second narrowest would be second, and then the widest would be third. So you're graphing this. You're putting it into the calculator. That's basically all you have to do. So I'm going to start with the number that is the least, right? I'm just going to, well, I'll start here with f of x. So I'm just going to put this down. Negative 5x squared. And I'm going to look at it. And, all right, that's good. I'm going to go and put 0.5x squared. And we'll see if that's narrower or wider. That is definitely wider. So that's the widest. Well, that's wide. This is narrow. Okay, let's look at the last one. That is 3x squared. And graph that. And it's a little bit wider than this one. So that one's in the middle. So they want narrowest. So this is 1. This is 2. This is 3. That's the widest. All right, so f of x, g of x, no. F of x has to be first. H of x second. G of x third. This is your answer. All right. Remember, f of x is the narrowest. The number, and the way it works, the larger the coefficient is, the narrower the graph. The closer the coefficient is to 0, the wider the graph. And that's really it. For number 12, we're talking about a two-way table. And it says at Berkeley Central High School, survey was conducted to see if the students preferred cheeseburgers, pizza, hot dogs, or lunch. The result of the survey is shown. Based on the survey, what percent of the students preferred pizza? I know a lot of people like pizza. So you're looking for students that preferred pizza. And that's all students. So that means we have to add up all of these, the numbers. So I'm just going to add them down. This is 68. I'm adding them. I'm adding them. So this is 74. And adding. And this is 58. All total, if you add up all of those, 74 plus 68 plus 74 plus 58, that equals 200 total students. Total students. So if you have 200 total students, that means that that number goes on the bottom, the total. So how many students preferred pizza? 74. So you're just basically taking these 74, going back to the 74, divided by 200. Put that directly in, and you get 0.37, 0.37. You move that decimal over 2 places to the right to make it a percent. You get 37%, and 2 is your answer. Which situation can be modeled by a linear function? Linear. So linear is a constant. Remember, it has to be constant. The slope remains the same. So a value of a car depreciates by 7% annually, a different amount every year. Different amount, no good. $50 initial fee and then $30 monthly. This is a constant. So that would be linear, 2. Doubles, any word with doubles, nope. That is not, it's a different amount each time. An amount of money increases by 0.1. That's a different amount. So remember, it is different. You're looking for the one that is constant. The only one that's constant is the $30 monthly. You're paying 30, and then the second month you're paying 30. So that's why 2 is the linear function. Number 14, which function has the smallest? So we're talking about smallest y-intercept value. So just go and look at the y-intercepts. Let me just put down what 14 is. This says x here. The y-intercept, this right here, if x is 0, this is the y-intercept. So we have a b of 1. Here's the y-intercept right here. This b is -2. And then I have to put the equal sign in here and the equal sign in here. And then plus, and okay. So we're just going to take a look at this and graph it just to make sure. So we're going to have y equals. We're going to clear out the last question that we did. And then we're going to put the square root of x. So square root, second function, x squared, square root, and then -3. Let's see where that takes us. Graph. There's the -3. So b equals -3. Then we're going to clear that out, and we're going to go to the next one, and we're going to say, okay, x squared plus 2x. And let me look over here, -1. And we're going to graph it. And there it is right there. That is a -1 as a y-intercept. So b equals -1. So 2 is your answer. b equals 3. Check in the calculator. -3. Check in that calculator. So now we're just going to put x equals 0. So they want to take the calculator out of your hands. So when it's solving this by completing the square, there's a bunch of steps that you have to do. You have to take the b, which is this one, this -10. You have to take b and divide it by 2. So then you get -5. Then you take that and then you square it. So you always take the b and divide it by 2. This is step number 1. And then step number 2 is -5 squared, which is 25. But first, you do have to add the 13 to both sides. So I'm going to move this up right here. So one of the things that I do all of the time is to rewrite whatever they're giving me, so I have to solve it. So if you're solving it by completing the square, what you typically do first is to get the constants all over to the other side of the equation on their own. You can't have a constant over with the numbers with the terms with the variables. So then you're adding 13 to both sides for this, and then you get this. So then you could take, okay, the b, which is -10, and divide it by 2. You get -5. Then you do -5 squared, and you get 25. So what this is that you're just going to x squared minus 10x, and you're going to add this number, which is 25, to both sides of the equation. So you get x squared minus 10 plus 25, and it equals 38. So, because 13 plus 25. Now, at this point, you could tell that this one and this one are out, because that equals 12. It's not going to equal 12. So, the one thing that you do have to remember, see this right here? When you do get when you divide it, negative 10 divided by 2, you see that negative 5? That's what this becomes. All right, so you see this negative 5 here? I know that this is going to be my answer, but let me just show you exactly where that's coming from. This right here is a trinomial. If you factor it out, you get a binomial times another binomial. So you just have to say, okay, remember when we were factoring it out, it's x and x, and then that would be 38, right? So what times what equals positive 25 and adds to negative 10? It is, you see this negative 5? That's where you would get x minus 5 times x minus 5. And then that's where this is. That's the reason why it's happening. So that's why 1 is your answer. So just to want to kind of skip some steps for you. This right here is called completing the square. And then if you wanted to go further, you would square root both sides. But we don't need to go further. That's the answer. And that's what they were asking for. All right. So number 16 says when 3x squared plus 7x minus 6 plus 2x to the third is written in standard form, the leading coefficient is. All right. I know that, see, this is the largest exponent. That goes first. I don't care what the rest is. It's 2. All right. That's the leading coefficient of the largest, the variable with the largest exponent. That's it. If you were writing it in standard form, if you went going further, 3x squared would be next, and then 7x would be next, and then the constant would be last. But this is the leading coefficient. And that is that. Number 17. So there is a way to do this in the calculator, but I am going to try the first one. These are easy enough. I'm just going to rewrite it. So this is 10x minus 50 equals negative 15. You add 50 on both sides. You add 50 on both sides. And then 10x equals 35. You divide by 10, divide by 10. X equals 3.5. So this will equal x equals 3.5. Let's go ahead and look at your second one. And I wrote it over here. And I do distributive property. That cancels out. So this is 2x equals 9. So you're dividing by 2. So 2 is not an answer. 2 is 4.5. But now we have to do this the third one. And I'm going to rewrite it here. And remember, multiplying by the reciprocal, I'm going to do that because that's the easiest way. 3 cancels with a 3, 1 cancels with a 1. X equals 9 over 2. 9 over 2 is 4.5. So this is 4.5. This is 4.5. Which one has the same solution? 2 and 3? 3 is your answer. Now, I am not kidding. If you don't use your calculator for this, that it's nuts. Just go ahead, grab your calculator, and then we are talking about putting in that first, that whatever they give you here as the y1. So I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to put 120 times 2 to the 3d, which is 3x. Right? And I'm going to go down, and I'm going to just say, like, I'm not picking this one. I'm going to go to one of these right here. So I'll just do 120 times 6 to the x power. I don't even know if that's going to be the answer, but whatever. There it is. And that's not it, because you could tell right away that you see how the red line is a little bit off. You could go to the table and just check the values, but they're not the same. So this is 120. I'll go to D. And I might be way off here, but it's okay because I have my calculator. I have my graph here. That's the first graph. And that's the second graph. It looks the same. Let me just check the table. Yes, look, all the values are the same. I went to 4, and 4 is my answer. I just kind of felt like 960 and then 240, 3D. That's not the same. That's not how it works. So 4 is my answer. Calculator only. Okay, so here's a property question. You know they would probably try to throw one of them in, and they have. If you look in, and it says 10x squared minus 12x minus 16x equals 6. George wrote this, and it looks like to me that George is factoring out. And when you factor out, it kind of is like what I always call distributive property in reverse. That's what it is. This is distributive property in reverse. So that's the first step that George took, right? And you see that he's factoring out a 2 on each side of the equation. Once he factors out the 2, now think about it. He has 2 5x squared minus 14x equals 2 times 3. The way that you would get rid of the 2's is to divide, right? So that's division property. So B and D would be, D and B would be the first 2 that he uses. Distributive property in reverse, which is distributive property, and then dividing by 2 would cancel out the 2's, and he would get 5x squared minus 14x equals 3. And that's exactly what they say he has. So anytime that they say that they want a sequence is a series of numbers, right? That it's defined recursively. That means that you have to have the first term, right, which is the first term you're talking about, or the term prior, and to get that to work to the next term. And then you use that term, the prior term, the previous term, and you could find the term after. So they're giving you a sub 1, so I'm going to put down a sub 1 equals negative 2. And I'm going to try to find a sub 2 now, because I have to work my way up to a sub 4. So do you see this part right here? This part right there. That is the previous term. That whole thing. So this is 3 times the previous term, plus 1. That's all it is. So it's 3 times the previous term, plus 1. So a sub 2 is negative 6 plus 1. A sub 2 is negative 5. Now we jump to a sub 3. A sub 3 is 3. You're going to use the same thing, same formula. 3 times the previous term, which is negative 5, plus 1. So that's negative 15 plus 1, which is negative 14. Then finally we get a sub 4 equals 3 times negative 14 plus 1. So 3 times negative 14 plus 1 is negative 41, because this is negative 42, plus 1 is negative 41. Negative 41 is your answer. And that's it. Just remember that a sub n minus 1 is the previous term. So just think of it this way. If you were breaking it down, this is the reason why it's the previous term. If you're looking for a sub 2, the n is a sub 2, right? Equals 3 times a, and then n is 2. We already said that. 2 minus 1 plus 1. So this becomes a sub 2 equals 3 times a sub 1, because 2 minus 1 is 1. So it's always the previous term. It's always the previous term. So you don't have to substitute it in all the time. Just think of it as the previous term and you won't get confused. And that is it for that question. Really weird question here, but they always seem to throw it on at least once. It says a swimmer set a world record in the women's 1,500 meter freestyle finishing the race in 15.42 minutes. That's pretty fast. If 1 meter is approximately 3.281 feet, which set of calculations can convert her speed to miles per hour? So I'm going to highlight that because that's important. You need to have miles on the top as the numerator. So you're looking for miles per hour. So all you're doing is kind of canceling out the units, not the numbers. Don't cancel out the numbers, you get confused. All right, so we're canceling out the units, and we're going to cross cancel. Remember cross canceling, right? So let's begin. Minutes and minutes, right? So do I see anything else that I could cancel, cross cancel? Hours don't cancel. The meters, feet, meters, meters and meter and meters are on the top part there. Miles, no good. That's it. So we're going to talk minutes and minutes. That's good. And meters and meter. That's good. Mile and hour. No, feet and feet. So miles, hour. Choose your answer. So look, if you're talking about meters and meter, and then feet and feet. And you see this is miles left and minutes. That's not miles per hour. That's out. We're talking about minutes, and then nothing else cancels. So this is out. All right, and it's a strange question, but they always have it. The diagram below shows the graph h of t, which models the height and feet of a rocket. The rocket gets, rocket goes off. It's shot in the air. And here's the t seconds. This is seconds. And this is height. What's the domain? The x values. So it starts here, 0, and lands here, 4. And it includes each, so 2 is your answer. It includes 0, includes 4. Right? If this was 0, 4 with the parenthesis, that would be an open circle on each. It is not an open circle on each, so that is how you would do that one. Number 23. Okay, so this question is a calculator question totally. They're looking for the correlation coefficient to the nearest hundredth for what they have listed above from the data, right? And you're not getting this correlation coefficient any other way except for inputting it into the calculator. So let's input this into the calculator. We're going to grab the calculator and we're going to press stat. And then you see edit, you leave it on edit, and then you just go ahead and put the 3, 1, you press 3, enter, 1, enter, 4, 0, 3, 7, 5, and 2. And then you go to L1 and you put 85. L2, and you put 85, 99, 81. Just check to see that you have the right numbers. If you make one wrong input, or you skip a number, it's going to mess up with, your correlation coefficient. All right, so I'm just going to check 85, 99, 81, 98, 90, 65, 78, 90, 3, 1, 4, 0, 3, 7, 5, and 2. Okay, so now we press stat. And actually, I'm going to go back for a second. So here's your list. But you have to, for correlation coefficient, and I wrote it down here, you have to make sure that stat diagnostics is on in your calculator. If stat diagnostics is not on, that means you're not going to see the correlation coefficient. The correlation coefficient is known as R in your calculator. So if you don't see the R, that means correlation coefficient is off. So to check to see if correlation coefficient is on, I'm going to press mode, and you see that all the way down it's stat diagnostics. You see that? It's off. So I'm going to go all the way down to that, and I'm going to go press to the right and then press enter. And I just want to make sure that it's on now. Now it's on. When you reset the calculator, when they have you reset it at the beginning of the test, it will set stat diagnostics to off by default. So you want it to be on. So let me just go back to stat, and now I have my list there. There's my list. So I press stat, and then I go to calc. And you see there's one var stats. You can leave it right on there and press enter. And the reason why I went to this is because this gives you the mean, this gives you the min, the Q1, and actually if you go down, it says Q2, median. This is great for a box plot, but it's not going to give you correlation coefficient. So let's go back. Stat, calc. Okay, so do you see this right here, number 4? Linear regression? Let's try that. There we go, list 1 and list 2. So now we're going to press calculate, and there's your R. So this is the y equals mx plus b. It says the calculus says a for m, and b stays b. This is the y-intercept, but we don't need that in this question. You need the R. So it needs to be rounded to the nearest hundredth. So I'm just going to rewrite what this is. So it's R equals negative 0.97718. So I just wanted to have that all down. So we are ready to go. What's the correlation coefficient rounded to the nearest hundredth? That's the second number after the decimal. So R equals negative 0.98. Because this 7 becomes an 8 because this is 5 and above. So that's it, negative. And that is your answer. So I wrote down all of the steps there. Make sure stat diagnostics is on. Input the list into the calculator as your first list and then your second list for the math score. Then press the right to calc, and then press 4 to get the correlation coefficient. And that would be considered a very strong negative correlation between x and y. And that's exactly sometimes what they ask you. So number 24. I just rewrote it and says you have to solve it for b. So there's the b in there. So you don't immediately go into where the b is, but what I would normally do right here is to try to get rid of this fraction. And anytime that you have a fraction, it's mostly you're multiplying by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 1 over 2 is 2. So I'm going to put 2v over here. And now I'm just going to go, and these cross cancel. You have 2v equals a times b plus c and then h. So the next thing that you would do is to just divide. Divide by what you want to cancel. Right? So I'm going to divide by this AH because I want to cancel that. And I'm going to divide by this AH because I want to cancel it. This A cancels with this A. This H cancels with this H. This is 2V over AH equals B plus C. Now solving for B would just be minus C on both sides. And move this down. This cancels. You have 2V over AH minus C equals B. And 4 is your answer. That's it. And that ends the first part, the multiple choice. I mean, they really can't give you an easier question. It just says graph the absolute value. And I think this is probably one of the easier like giveaway questions. So I'm just going to grab the calculator and I'm going to press y equals. But a lot of people don't know how to get to the absolute value. So you're going to press math and you're going to go over to num and you see this absolute value. That's the first one. So you just press 1 and you'll go back to the y equals screen. But just remember, the y equals screen is what you should press first, and then you press math and you will get the absolute value that way. So you just put x plus 1 inside and this is it. You press graph. And you go to, that's what you have to graph right there. So you go to the table and you're just going to go ahead and put the graph on the graph right here. So this is negative 10, 9, which is up here. You see what's happening, negative 9e, which is here. And it goes down like this. I don't even have to look. Look back every once in a while just to see that you did not make a mistake. It is negative 1, 0, and then 0, 1. So that's where it turns back up. Just to keep everything. All right, so this is 8, 9, and then 9, 10. So 8, 9 is there, and then 9, 10. So then you are just going to take your ruler and draw your best lines, because this is the test. Just like this, and then you put arrows on the top. That's not a good arrow right there. Arrow like that. And just because I do want to label it. And first question finished. Open-ended question done. There are no other questions there. That is an absolute value graph. It's in the shape of a V. Number 26, the table below shows the particular car over time. Determine whether it's linear or exponential is more appropriate for modeling the data. Just remember, linear is supposed to be a constant. It's either adding or subtracting. Exponential is not, right? It's not. So I'm just going to look at what is happening with the x's. So obviously the x's really don't matter much, but you just want to see that the x's are increasing or decreasing at a constant rate. All right, just to make sure that what you're looking at on the y side is really what you're looking at, because if the x's aren't constant, then the y might look a little strange. All right, but the x's are constant. So this right here, if you're just going to take a look, that is minus 9,450, and I got that just by subtracting. So this one is 4,980. This one, if I subtract it, is negative 2,630. And then this right here is negative 1,390. So is it linear exponential? It is definitely exponential. Definitely exponential. And that's where I put the slope is not constant, so it's more appropriate to model this data as an exponential function. They're not asking for what the common ratio is, so I'm not doing that. I'm just putting down that it's not linear, so and it is more appropriate to model this as an exponential function, because that's what it is. And then I actually did the slope twice and showed that it is not a constant slope. Nice. If it's product, right, is this product, which is this and this, rational or irrational? So just remember, all you have to do is put this into the calculator. That's all you have to do. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clear this out, go to graph, clear it out. And I'm going to press second function, square root, E. Make sure you press to the right. And second function, square root again. 28. That's all you really have to do. You just put it into the calculator and you will get 28. And then I put when square root of 8 and square root of 98 are multiplied, the result is 28, which is rational. 28 is rational because it is an integer. That's it. Done. End of story. You don't have to do anything else. We'll say these are the ages, number 28, the ages of the last 16 United States presidents on their first inauguration day, shown in the table below. Once you have these, this is all you need. Put it into the calculator and determine the interquartile range, which is, let me just get off of the highlighter. This is Q3 minus Q1. So instead of doing this by hand, you grab the calculator and you go to stat again. Just realize that the lists that you had from the prior question will be there still. So you go up to L2 and you press clear. And you notice that it clears the L2, and then you press enter and it goes away. If you go up to L1, you press clear again and press enter, it goes away. If by happen, don't press delete. If you do press delete, that means L1 will be gone, and then you will not have an L1, which is something that you need. So like I said, if you do happen, because it happened to me, I press delete and then L1 is gone. You just go, don't freak out, don't reset the calculator. You're just going to press stat, and then you see this setup editor. You just press 5. It'll go to the main screen and you'll see setup editor there, and you press enter and it's done. All right, done means they put L1 back, or whatever you deleted, they put back to normal. You press stat and you go back to your list. All right, so now I'm going to put this list in. Go ahead, put that list in. I'm going to press pause now. Okay, so I have 16 numbers. Actually, I have 16 numbers. I'm waiting for the 17th, so I'm just going to check for 8, 12, 16. I'm good. I have everything in. Now they want the interquartile range. So now you press Stat, you go to Calc, and interquartile range, since you only have L1, and it's going to give you the interquartile range if you leave it on one var stats. So you press Enter, and then you press Enter 3 more times, and you see exactly what they give you. This X with the line on top is the mean. This sigma X right here, this is the standard deviation. So the N stands for the number of numbers you input in, and the min is the minimum number. Q1 is right there. It's 51. Median is the middle of all the data. Q3 is the median of the upper portion of the data, and the max is the largest. So you're going to take Q3 and minus it from Q1. And that's it. All right, so you just take them from the calculator. Calculator has Q3, 61.5, and this is Q1, which is 51. And you subtract those two. That's the interquartile range, and you are finished. 10.5 is your answer. Remember, put it into your list. Put into stat list. And that's it. All right, number 29. Okay, number 29, the cost of 1 pound of grapes, G, is 15 cents more than 1 pound of apples. So I'm just going to put down A equals apples. All right, the cost of 1 pound of grapes is 15 cents more than 1 pound of apples. Okay. All right, the cost of 1 pound of bananas, now B, is twice as many as 1 pound of grapes. So I kind of write down the key for myself just to make sure everything is good. And now I could go ahead and answer the question. Write the equation that represents the cost of 1 pound of bananas. So B equals, in terms of the 1 pound of apples. So that means this right here, this 2 times A plus 15. That's it. Or you put B equals 2A plus 30. And that's it. It's all they want. Student given the function, let me just put down the equal signs and calculator. All right, let's go. Calculator. So we're going to press Y equals. We're going to clear out the absolute value, and we are going to put the X plus 1 squared. They want to know the transformation that is happening from X plus 1 squared to X plus 3. So we're going to put the X plus 3 in second, squared, and we're going to press graph. So there's the X plus 1. Okay, so it moves to the, from here, it moves to the left 2. 2 to the left. And that's all. Simple, to the point. Use your calculator. You can see it. It's right there. See, this is the blue. It moves 2 to the left. Just make sure that you put the first one, f of x, in first as y1, and then f, and then g of x as the y2. Okay, so it says solve, this is for number 31, solve 3 of x, 3x squared minus 5x minus 7 equals 0. Only every time that you see a coefficient that is greater than 1, you cannot do any factoring by just taking a binomial and then picking a second binomial that multiplies to it. You're using the formula, the quadratic formula. you're going to go to the reference sheet and you're going to put down the quadratic formula. Use the quadratic formula for this. So I did that. It is negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, all over 2a. All right, so now the second thing that I'm going to do is a equals, this is your a, this is your b, and then this is your c. So I'm just going to put that down here. This is negative 5. Take the sign of the number before it, c equals negative 7. So now we're just going to go ahead and substitute in. X equals negative b, which is already a negative 5, so it becomes a positive 5, plus or minus square root of negative 5 in parentheses squared, minus 4 times 3 times negative 7, all over 2 times a, which is 3. So it does say to round to the nearest tenth. So you're not going to, it doesn't matter, like when it says exact values, you have to probably leave the radical intact. But rounding to the nearest tenth, that means you're going to get a decimal and you have to round it to the nearest tenth. But I'm just going to go ahead and put whatever's underneath the radical into my calculator. So I'm just going to put the negative 5, almost pressed minus, that's not good, squared, minus 4, and then times 3. You see I'm putting directly underneath the radical. Whatever's underneath the radical, I am going to put that in, and it is radical 109. So I'm just going to rewrite that plus, I'm sorry, I don't need a plus, but it's 5. 5 plus or minus square root of 109. I just want to show you the progression that's happening here, over 6. So then I could take the square root of 109 and I'll get 10.44. And I'm not rounding yet. I'm rounding my answer. So so this is x equals 5 plus or minus 10.44 over 6. And then I'm going to split that up. And I'm going to put x equals 5 plus 10.44 over 6. And then this side, I'm going to put x equals 5 minus 10.44 over 6. See, this is where the plus and minus comes in. Because when you take the square root of a number, it's a negative square root, negative root, and a positive root. So that's why you have those two answers there. So I'm just going to press alpha x, and I'm going to put directly into the calculator 5 plus the 10.44 over 6. And I'm going to get 2.57, and I'm going to put 5 minus 10.44. I don't know why I did that. So alpha x, 5 minus 10.44 over 6. That took me a while to do there. And then so I have that. So it says round to the nearest tenth. So the 2.57 would be 2.6. And you could put, it doesn't matter, but like if you put a wavy equal sign, that means it's approximately. So it is 2.57. So you just look at the calculator, 2.57. They want you to round it. It's 2.6. And then x equals also negative 0.9, because, again, if you have negative 0.90, that's going to be rounded to negative. It's going to stay a negative 0.9. So those two answers, those are solving algebraically what you have. Values of x. That's it. Quadratic formula, definitely. It's a must. All right. As soon as you see it like that, that is what you have to do. For this, it is not rounding at all. I'm sorry, it's not quadratic formula at all. Just take a look at the difference. You see how this is equal to 0, and it says solve algebraically. This one doesn't. It says factor completely. So that means if it says factor completely, that means definitely more than one step. So check to see if you could factor anything out. So now I noticed that all of them do not have a variable. But let's see if 3, see how 3 is here? 3 goes into 12, I know that. But does 3 go into 288? So I'm just going to go 288 divided by 3. And it does. All right, so 96. So that means 3. Put it on the outside, and we're going to do distributive property in reverse. So 3 times y equals 3y squared, 3y squared, and then 3 times y equals negative 12y, that is negative 4y, and then 3 times, and it says right here 96, so I have 96. All right. So that's a trinomial that is in the middle there. So I'm going to have to figure out what two numbers multiply the 96 and add to 4. All right. So you know that you have y here. This is a trinomial. And you have two binomials. And it is going to be a negative. It's multiplying to a negative. So it has to be a positive and negative. So the first thing that I'm going to do is 1 and 96. And then 96 divided by 2. Let's see if that works out. Yep, 2 and 48. That does, you can't make 4 out of those numbers. So I'm going to go to 3. 98 divided by 3. And let's see if that works. No. 98 divided by 4. Let's see if that works. No. 98 divided by 5, 98 divided by 6, no. 98 divided by 7, no. Yes. All right, so 7 and 14. Can you make 4 out of that? No, you can't. Well, we have to keep on going. 98 divided by 8, no. 98 divided by 9, no. 98 divided by, wait a minute. It's not 98. I don't know what I just did. 96. See what I did there? 96. That's not good. So I started over again, and because I messed up there. So 3 times 32 would be 98. Now we're just going to go, 96. I don't know why I have 98 in my head. And 96 divided by 4 is 24. So 4 and 24. That still can't make 4. 96, I'm going to skip 5 because I know that doesn't go in. And 16. That's still no good. Doesn't make 4. You can't add to make 4. So 96 divided by 7, I don't think that's going to work. No, it doesn't. 96 divided by 8. Let's see if that works. 8 and 12. So, yeah, we already said that one's a positive, one's a negative. So 8 and 12, you can make 4. 12 minus 8 is 4. But you have to have a negative 4. You have to add to a negative 4. So there's 12 here and 8 here. So 8, you just do 8 times negative 12 is negative 96, and then 8 minus 12 is negative 4. That works. This is your answer. And that's it. You factored completely. All right. Sorry about the issue here. All right, with that, I just changed that number. That's not good. Answer all 4 questions in this part. This is part 3. You receive 4 credits. Each one of these is a 4-credit question. So, Thomas took this 140-mile trip, all right, bus trip to his grandparents. He outlined the graph below. So they always ask what is going on right here. And that's the first question. Explain what might have happened between interval D and E. Just remember, there are no miles in between D and E. There are no miles being covered. Just a half hour. This is 2:30, and this is 3 o'clock. A half hour goes by, and no miles are. The miles aren't increasing. The miles are staying the same. So what happened during that time? And I put down that the bus stopped at a rest stop. We don't know if it stopped at a rest stop. We might have stopped to get gas. Who knows what happened. But gas probably wouldn't take 30 minutes. Stopped at a rest stop for 30 minutes between interval D and E. And that's it. State the interval in which the bus traveled the fastest. So the fastest. So you're talking about, you just have to kind of look at the graph and look for the steepest line. And the steepest line represents the fastest speed, the fastest rate. But I just wanted to kind of go and just take a look at this. From A to B, that's a half hour. If they figured out, like, everything is per mile, right? Per hour. So if they're doing 20 miles in a half hour, how many hours would they do in an hour? And that's 40. So I'm going to put 40 miles per hour right here, even though that's a half. Now this one doesn't count because it's not moving. So now from C, the 1 hour part, to right here, that's 2.5 hours. So right here, this is a steady rate. So you could take this point right here and this point, and if it's going from 20 to 80 in that 1 hour, right? 20 to 80 in that 1 hour, that means it's going 60 miles per hour. That's from C to D. It maintains 60 miles per hour. It doesn't shift at all. From E to F, we're talking about from 3 to 4. From 3 to 4, they're going from 110 to 140. That's 30 miles per hour. So the interval that they're traveling the fastest is C to D. So I put down the answers for the next two. State the interval the bus was traveling the fastest, 60 C to D, and the bus was traveling 60 miles an hour. And I told you what I did there to figure out exactly how fast the bus was traveling. What's the average rate of speed in miles per hour for the entire trip? Nice and easy question, right? So the entire trip, A starts at 0, 0. So you put down that right there, that A is 0, 0. Looking up at the last part of the trip, which is F, that's 4 for the X, and 140. So 4, F is 4, 140. Now all you have to do is label them X1, Y1, X2, Y2, and do the slope formula Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. And you have M equals minus minus 140 minus 0, and then 4 minus 0. Nice and easy. 140 over 4 You don't have to put that. You could put the put it directly into your calculator. 140 divided by 4. M equals 35 miles per hour. And that is it. Okay, so for number 34, you just grab your calculator and just graph it. Just remember f of x is not going to be linear. That is going to be a U shape. And the g of x will be linear. So you're going to graph that on the same set of axes below. And so I am going to clear out whatever we have right here. And go ahead and graph x squared minus 4x plus 3. And I'm going to get graph right here. And there is my graph. Now for this graph, just remember, I'm going to go to second function table to figure out what's going on. The graph that they give me is a 10 by 10 graph. So negative 215 is not going to fit, but negative 18 will. So I'm just going to go down and I'm going to start graphing. Negative 18. So negative 18 is right here. And then I'll go down to 0.3, which is right here. And then I'll do 10, which is right here. And you see that 2, -1, and 3, 0, 2, -1, and 3, 0 next, just like that. And then 4, 3, and 5, 8. 4, 3, and 5, 8. And just like that, you graph it. So now you just go off the graph a little bit because I'm just going to put this in blue and try my best. And there's my U shape. So when I go ahead and finish that, just remember to put the label on it. F of x equals x squared minus 4x plus 3. Then we are going to graph this g of x. So we're going to bring the calculator back up. And we're just going to go ahead and put, you could put 0.5 in, or you could just put 1/2, because your calculator just easily does that. And then that's x plus 1. And this is going to be linear. You know it's going to be linear. There's the red line. It is not very steep. So I'm just going to go to negative 10. Negative 10, negative 4 is my first point. So negative 10, negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 4. The next point, I'm going to skip right there because that's a fraction. Negative 8, negative 3. Negative 8, negative 3. You notice that this is a slope of rise of 1 and a run of 2. Rise of 1, run of 2. So you just keep on going like that. Just check to see that you have at least your y-intercept correct. This should be 0, 1. And so let me just go down and just check to see that I'm on the same. Yep, there's 0, 1. And then so I don't need it anymore. Rise of 1, run of 2. 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 And now I'm going to connect those points with my line. Just like that. And just remember arrows on each side, extending out. and then put the label of what that is. This is g of x equals 1/2 x plus 1. And we have another question to answer. Based on your graph, state one value that satisfies f of x equals g of x. So just remember, when they're saying that, like, state one value, they're just talking about the intersecting point. So the intersecting point is very easy to pick the ones with the whole numbers. You see this one right here does not have a whole number coordinate. So right there, but right here, this is pretty easy to see. It's 4, 3. You can look on your calculator, 4, 3, right here where I left it, 4, 3, 4, 3. So that is when f of x equals g of x. That's based on my graph. 4, 3 satisfies f of x and g of x. 4, 3 is a point that f of x and g of x intersect, and then you are finished with that problem. Nice easy graph there. Not an easy question is number 35, where you would have to actually go ahead and read. This is the problem here that is not so easy and straightforward. But let's see if we can go through it. The store sells grapes for $1.99 a pound. I'm just going to highlight, and that's grapes. For strawberries, that's $2.50 per pound, and for pineapples, that is $2.99 each. So Jonathan has $25 to buy fruit. He plans to buy 2 more pounds of strawberries than grapes. He also plans to buy 2 pineapples. If X represents the number of pounds of grapes, write an inequality that models this scenario. So first off, the inequality right now, I'm just going to go and put down it, because this is the easiest thing for me, that he has $25 to buy fruit. You cannot go over that, so it's less than or equal to. So I'm just going to go ahead and put down the X equals, X represents grapes. All right. So strawberries. So he plans to buy, forget about the number amount right now. He plans to buy 2 more pounds of strawberries than grapes. So for strawberries, I'm just going to put X plus 2. And that equals strawberries. Right? And then he also plans to buy 2 pineapples. All right? So that's basically all I'm going to put down. So let's just, what I like to do is just put myself in the position of what this person is, Jonathan, is doing and is buying. So he plans to buy 2 more pounds of strawberries than grapes. So store sells represents the amount of grapes. So we're going to talk about the grapes first. So $1.99. And that's X. Those are the grapes. Plus, we're going to say, okay, he's going to get 2 more pounds of strawberries than grapes. But strawberries cost $2.50 per pound. So that's this. And then he wants to buy 2 pineapples. So pineapples are $2.99 each. So we have plus, and then $2.99 times 2. That's it. Like, that's everything he's going to buy. Store sells this. He plans to buy 2 more pounds of strawberries than grapes. Grapes first, $1.99 X. Then $2.50 for the strawberries, X plus 2 more pounds of 2 more pounds of strawberries than grapes. So X plus 2 times 250. And then 299 times the 2 for the 2 pineapples. And that is it. So that's your whole inequality right there. So now it says determine algebraically the maximum number of whole pounds of grapes that he could buy. So I'm just going to rewrite this down. And the first thing that I'm going to do is to just clear up that 299 times 2. And I'm going to put that directly into my calculator. So I'm just going to write this down again. And then I'm going to put 299 times 2 is 598. This is 199x. And then when I do distributive property, I get 250x plus 5 plus 598. Then I am going to combine like terms, and I get 449x plus 1098, because 5 plus 598 is 1098, and it's 25. Then you just solve it. Subtract the 1098 on both sides. This cancels. You have 449 less than or equal to minus 1098. Don't forget that. And then this is 14.02, and you divide by, I forgot the x here, and then divide by 449. So x is less than or equal to 3.12. And that's grapes. So he can buy a maximum of 3 pounds of grapes. And that's it. That's the end of that problem. Not terrible. It looked a little bit worse than it was. But, you know, that's, I think that those are the most difficult questions. All right. So, this is a system of inequalities, and you cannot graph anything that is not in y equals mx plus b. So we're just going to subtract 3x on both sides. This cancels. Y is less than negative 3x plus 5. Then I'm going to go over here and put 1 is greater than or equal to 2x minus y. I'm going to add the y to both sides. Then I have y plus 1 is greater than or equal to 2x. Then you minus 1 on both sides. This is y is greater than or equal to 2x minus 1. You have your y equals mx plus b, not equals, but the inequality, you know what I mean. It's in the right format. Now you can grab your calculator. And clear out whatever you have in there. So I'm going to go to the left, right? You see where my blinker is, the cursor is, and I'm going to press enter, and it is less than. So I'm going to press to the right, that's greater than, this is less than. I'm going to go down to OK and press enter, and then I'm going to go and graph negative 3x plus 5. And this is what the graph looks like. So I'm going to get some values. So this is negative 1 8. So I'm just going to go down and start graphing. -1 and 8 is up here. I'm going to grab the calculator again and go to 0, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you see, even with those 2 points, you see this slope is -3. So it's down 3 to the right 1. Down 3 to the right 1. Down 3, 1, 2, 3 to the right 1. Down 3 to the right 1. Down 3 to the right 1. Down 3 to the right 1. So just remember, this is a dotted line because it's a less than, not less than or equal to. So when I grab my ruler, just make sure that you are, okay, there we go, putting a dotted line in and not a solid line. All right. Just remember to put arrows on either end and the inequality on the top or the bottom of the line. All right, and the only thing that we would have to do is to shade. This is less than, so that means it's going to go below the line. And the calculator says below the line, if you look at it, and you see exactly what to shade. So I am going to shade below the line, just like this. Shading below is less than, shading above is greater than. And just like that. Shade all the way to the end of the graph. Straighten this out. And that is shaded the way it's supposed to. Now let's go ahead and take this one and put that in as y2. My y2 is greater than or equal to. So I'm going to go to the left and then go down and put greater than. Click to the right twice, then OK, and that is greater than. So this is 2x minus 1. And I'm going to graph it, and there it is, the double shaded area and everything. So we have -2, -5. Let's see if I could go -4, -9 is the first. -4, -9. -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and -9 is all the way down here. The next point is -3, -7. -3, 1, 2, 3, -7 is right here. You could see that it's a rise of 2 and a run of 1. The slope is 2. Rise of 2, run of 1. Just check the points, especially the y-intercept. Up 2, run 1. Up 2, run 1. In this one, since it's a greater than or equal to, gets a solid line. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to put that solid line in. Just like that. And then put arrows on the ends. So that's the line that we're graphing. The only thing I have to do, remember it's a solid line because it's greater than or equal to and only thing I have to do is shade above the line. It's greater than. And just take a look at the calculator. It says greater than is above the line in red, right? So we are going to shade that above the line, and as soon as I get my act together here, we'll do that above the line right here. So I'm going to put that in a darker color, and you see the double shaded area. In that double shaded area, you're going to put a giant S for solution. So I'm going to put a giant S. That is the solution set. Is negative 5, 0 in the solution set? So we're going to just graph negative 5, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is negative 5, 0. It is in the solution set because it's in the double shaded area. And there it is. Negative 5 is in the double shaded area, is in the solution set because it falls within the double shaded area. So here we go. Last question. This is a part 4. It's typically 6 points, 6 credits, and it is probably one of the more difficult questions that they have going. But let's go ahead and see if we can figure this out. An ice cream shop sells small and large sundaes. One day, this is the first day, they sell that, and they were sold for this. And then the second day, it's another day, doesn't have to be, they sold this. Sales or taxes included. And just remember that an X is the cost of a small sundae, Y is the cost of a large sundae. Write a system of equations. So I'm going to put X is small, Y is a large. Very easy to get some points here. All right, so one day. So this is 30 small, 30X, plus 50L. Equals 420. Sorry, not L, Y. Yeah. Equals 420. Another day, 15 small, plus 35, large, equals 270. You got some points right there. That's it. Right? That's the system. All right, the first day. And the second day. Or the other day. The next day. All right. So Peyton thinks that small sundaes cost $2.75 and large sundaes cost $6.75. Is Peyton correct? Well, we have to check both equations out. So we're going to put 30. We're going to use our first equation, and it's $2.75 for the small sundaes. So 30 times the $2.75 plus 50 times $6.75. That equals 420. So just put this directly into your calculator, and you will get 420 equals 420. So that works. But you can't say Peyton is correct yet, because you have to check out the second equation. 15. Move this up a little bit. Times the 275 plus the 35 times the 675. That equals 270. And then this is 270. We'll put that in the calculator. 277.50 is not equal to 270. Peyton is not correct. That's it. Peyton is not correct. Using your equations, determine algebraically what the cost of one small sundae and one large sundae is. So we're just going to go ahead and rewrite the system that we created up top. That equals 420. And then this 15x plus 35y equals 270. All right, so you have to get one of these to cancel, and the easiest one to get to cancel is this x, because they go directly into each other. If you multiply by -2, that becomes a -30x, and that's exactly what you want. So I'm just going to go and put down here that this is 30x. I'm going to rewrite 30x plus 50y equals 420. That's just rewriting the first one. And then I'm just going to do distributive property here, which is -30x minus 70y equals, and that is -540. All right, all I did was distributive property to get those numbers. Then I'm going to cancel out the x's, was what you wanted to do. And then this is -20y equals -120. Divide by -20 on both sides. So y equals 6 large sundaes. All right, so now you just pick one of the equations to substitute back into. You have 15x plus 35y equals 270. And I'm going to do 15x plus 35 times 6 equals 270. And we have 15x, 35 times 6 is 270, 210 equals 270. That's where I was getting that 270 from. Now you just solve it for x. This right here cancels. You have 15x equals 60. Then you divide by 15 on both sides. This cancels. X equals 4. Small sundaes. So 6 large and 4 small. And believe it or not, that is the end of the test, and that is everything. That was a 6-point question. I feel that it's a pretty good 6-point question. That is the entire August 2022 exam. So if you need it, hopefully that helped, and thank you for watching. If you need anything as far as, you know, to go back to a question that you didn't understand, just go back, rewind the video, and you'll be able to see that in the question again. So remember, if it's asking, especially for the multiple choice, if it's asking which graph is equal, or which expression is equal to another expression, all you have to do is really just use your calculator to put it into Y1, and then go ahead through all of the other choices. The graph that matches, that's the graph. That is the answer. All right, that's the expression, that's the answer. So just take it slow. Remember, resetting the calculator, the stat diagnostics automatically gets turned to off. Just remember to turn that back on for correlation coefficient question, just like we did in the part 2 and the multiple choice. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.